All right then. So I'm RaikouRider. I was the DKC3 runner previously, and I'll be doing my last run of the event here. This is Super Mario Bros. 3, the All Switches category, which is relatively unknown at this point. Only 3 of us have times, Barnowl, Oglib, and myself. In this run, we will be completing the game, beating Bowser, while hitting all 38 of the game's P-switches. This has very interesting routing implications. So with that, we will go ahead and get started in 3, 2, 1, go. So because a lot of the switches require flight, you're going to see primarily tail being used instead of Fire Flower. There are a couple of instances where we will use it, but it will be primarily tail just because flight is needed to be able to get to many of the switches efficiently. And hopefully I don't forget any, because some of them are really easy to forget about. Get used to hearing this music too. We will be obtaining all 3 warp whistles as well. And they are used in a different way from the All Fortresses category that has surged in popularity in the last year. So most of the first world is pretty basic platforming, and those are actually all the switches in the first world. But we are going to need to duck into Stage 3 as well as the Fortress to get a couple warp whistles that will be used later in the run. Now, when you are moving with tail, you do want to hover as little as possible, because hovering with tail does slow you down. And rather than just pure P-speed strats, it's really all about just flight management and just use of tail, and that's something that a lot of Super Mario Bros. 3 runners may have a bit of a hard time with when transitioning to the category. Okay, that should be good. Yes. That saves maybe a second over flying up normally. So now we're actually done with World 1, so we're going to use one of these warp whistles to proceed to World 2. So in World 2, I am going to be grabbing a star for safety. If I were doing personal best attempts, I would not grab this, because we need to get flight to be able to get up to this pipe, which has a switch for us to hit. Hello? Excuse you, Mario 3 hitboxes. Oh yeah, did I mention this game has some really questionable hitboxes, especially on enemies moving upward. But that's no big deal. I'll be able to pick this tail back up at the start of the next stage. So this category's biggest analogy is probably Lunar Dragon from Super Mario World. And we do use all 3 warp whistles in this category, and they are used a different way than in All Fortresses. We'll be skipping different worlds this time. The All-Stars, I have chosen the All-Stars version for primarily marathon safety purposes. In the event that I do have a bit of a brain fart and forget a switch, that I would be able to reset to the beginning of the world and be able to show it. Also, shoutouts to Team Boom Boom. Fortunately, that bro is going to duck over to the other side of this world, which could cause some problems down the road. If you're primarily using tail strats for your warpless runs, this is actually faster to do in warpless as well by about 2 to 3 seconds. Oh, I need to watch my coin count. One of the things that you do need to pay attention to when running any category of Super Mario Bros. 3 is your coin count. If your coin count is a multiple of 11, and the tens digit of your score matches that multiple of 11, you'll get a coin chip at the end of the stage, and that's about a minute auto-scroller. Here's our first instance of the Angry Sun. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that thing. And I'm sure I will hate it once Super Mario Maker 2 comes out next month. Or it's actually later this month. Where's the time gone? So, this is the first stage that has a really tight P-speed that I'm going to need to get for takeoff optimally. Got it. You have about a block of error to be able to get up there optimally. So hopefully we can get the hammer first so we don't have to fight this. So we don't have to fight the other bro. Nope. Wrong one. Typically, if you're going to fight all the bros in a world, you want to do so as quickly as possible to be able to save what I like to call hammer dance time. If you've ever seen bros just dance around the maps of especially Worlds 4 and 6, they can eat up a lot of your time. Yes, this part of the stage exists. I almost clipped that switch, actually. You might also notice that I'm slowing down at every second of 3 stages. That is to avoid getting 3 cards in a row of the same type, which will slow you down. We're actually stopping into this mushroom house to pick up a frog suit. One unique thing about this category is, other than the hammer suit, every single power-up in the game gets used at some point. That frog suit will come into play in World 4. Now, the ending to Pyramid is actually pretty cool in this category. We're going to take advantage of this P-switch to turn the last row of blocks in the pyramid into coins, so that we can just run right through it. Did manage to keep tail as well. Now, having tail through 3-2 will save a small amount of time. And the World 2 airship is the first airship we will play, and it will also be the first opportunity for us to get a little airship swag going. So hopefully there will be sufficient levels of airship swag. If any of you have seen me run categories of Super Mario Bros. 3 before, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. We've got to keep ourselves occupied during these auto-scrollers somehow. Darn. Hovered a little too long. So what I was trying to do there is just get extra lives, because I clearly need them. But now we are finished with World 2. So to give you an idea of where the times are, out of the three of us, Glib has only done one run. His time is a little over an hour, and then Barn and I both have 58s. So this next level, if I still had Tail, I could make it a little faster, but because I don't have Tail, I'm going to pick up Fire Flower to make the fortress a little bit faster. So there's a couple switches we need to grab in this next level. And this time we are not going to feed our fish, hopefully. This could get problematic. I did not mean to kill that Koopa. So I'm going to need to get to it this way. But it's better than taking a death and being small. So that's a bit of an unfortunate time loss, but it'll be okay. Sub-hour is still a possibility. That's my goal for this run, is just getting sub 1 hour. For those of you asking about what I meant by clipping a switch, you'll see that in World 4. Where if you have enough speed, you can actually hit a switch from underneath. Sorry, not doing door 3. In this fortress, if you enter door 3, you can go straight to Boom Boom at the end of the fortress, but you do need to press up on the D-pad the first frame you gain control of Mario on the other side. Door 6 is the intended method of leaving. And good patterns on both. Now, we do actually need to defeat both of these Hammer Brothers to make the bridge cycle work properly. And I can pick Tail back up here as well. Just short. That's okay, though. And with all the bros out of the... You also may have to, depending on what bridge cycle you get, you may have to worry about a runaway bro in this level as well. Which can force an intentional death or two to fix the bridge cycle at some point during the world. So now this next stage actually has one of my favorite strats in the category. We're actually going to be taking advantage of a coin heaven to pick up an additional cloud. And because we need to enter this stage anyway, even though this coin heaven is an auto scroller, it is actually to our benefit to pick up the cloud in here. Now, one interesting thing about routing this category was cloud use, because you can't skip any level that has a P-switch in it. So you may see some interesting choices of which levels are skipped with a cloud. Oh, I missed. You don't want anything to do with Boss Bass, that big fish. If he swallows you, you will die, even if fully powered up. So maybe we can fly over to H. Slowly, but we can. If you can't tell, we Mario runners generally do not like fish. In most games, when you see fish, they are random. Those aren't, in that stage, at least. But there are a lot of other random fish in this game and other games. And hopefully on this airship, I'll be able to redeem myself for the lack of airship swag in World 2. I would call it boat swag, but boat swag is something else. Not today, apparently. The one in World 3 is actually in the official guidebook by Nintendo, that you can get 1-ups on this airship. The easiest airship to do it on is easily the World 1 airship, but that airship does not get played in this category. Alright, Wendy, can you please cooperate? So what makes Wendy so dangerous is instead of firing blasts of magic from the wand, she instead spawns these rings that bounce around the cabin, and they can be very frustrating to try to dodge, especially with the high jump. No, those rings are the opposite of lifesavers. Should still be able to fix that in the next level. Alright, there is a switch in 4-2. Thankfully, it's in plain sight. And we can get our tail back for... Well, it doesn't matter too much for this level or the... Never mind. I hate fish. So that'll make the next level interesting, because I'm going to have to maneuver around some Sledge Brothers now rather than just whack them with a tail. They are. Anytime you see Cheep Cheeps, they're just no fun. So now I gotta see what this bro is gonna do. Good. That's the pattern I wanted, because that's the one that's easiest to deal with. Now my power-up situation coming out of this level is not going to matter, because I'm going to be using a power-up at the beginning of the... Or I'm going to be using a power-up for my menu in the next stage. I should have ducked there. So a lot of the routing work for this category was done by Barnall and myself. So we're going to use a hammer to skip this stage, and that frog suit that we picked up at the end of World 2 is going to be used here. Oh, I didn't get the yump. So this is what I meant by P-switch clipping, is if you have enough speed, you can actually... apparently I can't clip today. That's a better example. Is if you have enough speed, you can clip into the P-switch and hit it from underneath. And then having a frog suit actually saves quite a bit of time in this level. We do want to dump the suit at the end, though. Typically as close to the pipe as possible, because your swimming speed is... Oh, 2 stars in a row. You have more swimming speed as a frog than as Super Mario, understandably. Viewing, please? Thank you. So now this other bro has a star that I'm not interested in, so I can actually put this bro to sleep with a music box. Now this next switch that I need to hit is tucked away in a bonus room that it is preferred that you have tail for. But you don't necessarily need to have it. And you can very conveniently get a tail back. This is where the Tanuki suit in the run will be featured, is we'll be getting this one. And then, of course, promptly lose it, because being good at video games is hard. Just mess around with this game casually sometime, and you'll see the crazy number of hidden areas there are that aren't relevant to any speedrun category. There are a lot of Easter eggs in this game. Oh, there are a lot. So one of the big differences between the All Fortresses category and this one is it is actually faster to play the World 4 airship, unfortunately. This is a 2.5-minute auto-scroller, but by playing this, we can skip 4 stages at the end of World 5. So hi from the World 4 airship. How's everybody doing today? And I did forget to mention, with regards to the coin ships, you can only get them in Worlds 1, 3, 5, and 6. There are a couple different ways you can use your items depending on your comfort level with certain stages, particularly P-Wings. In this next stage, there is a switch that requires flight to be able to hit, but not necessarily a P-Wing. A P-Wing does save a significant amount of time, but you may not have one for another stage that it's nice to have one later. So depending on your comfort level with the route, there are a couple of different options you have available to you. So hopefully Iggy doesn't decide to hitbox me. Iggy, the hyperactive Koopaling, has a very high jump, and it's very easy to get hitboxed because of upward speed and how hit detection works in this game. Anybody who's played this game enough or has played enough randomizer will understand. Thankfully, that has been fixed. Because in the Super Mario Bros. 3 randomizer, that used to be a bug that could soft lock the stage. Thankfully, that is no longer a thing. And we are going to use a P-Wing here, just because it makes obtaining this switch not only easier, but faster. So who knew this area existed? Or this area. That is slightly faster than completing the stage the normal way in this category. The music box isn't quite so important as just the alternate exit. The credit warp is done from World 7, the true any percent run that takes what, all of 3 minutes. No, it's not. I mean, just by its very nature, any ace or arbitrary code execution run is not going to be easy. This is one of my favorite stages in the game, actually, to speedrun. The movement through this stage is so crisp. It's one of those stages that when you know what to do, it's way easier to speedrun than it is to play casually. So this is another case where I'm hoping to get the correct bro, because if I get the correct item from the bro, I'll be able to skip the other one. And I did get the correct item. So I'll be able to use ironically, the music box I just got to be able to put this bro to sleep and go straight to the tower. So hopefully we can sneak past all these thwomps. Getting past all three is not easy. Nowhere close on the first one. Thankfully, the next two are quite a bit easier, and we'll be able to get powered back up at the start of the next stage. And past this point are where some of the most well-hidden switches in the game are. There were a couple of these I didn't even know about until after I learned that this was a thing. Thankfully, most of the stages here are short. There's just not very much forgiveness in missing a jump. Because naturally, since we're in the sky, there's nothing beneath our feet, so one false jump and you can be sent back to the beginning. With no power-ups! There's nothing actually important in here, there's just a tanuki. And it just serves as a shortcut through the level. Now this next stage, 5-6, which is the Parabeetle stage, unfortunately it is an auto-scroller and we do need to play it. And hopefully that bro stays out of my way for the rest of the world. It should. And this is why we need to play this stage. Now, unlike a lot of the switches in the game, this one isn't intended for you to be able to collect coins. That one is intended to just make the platforming easier. Also on the Super Nintendo version, we do not need to wait for the screen to scroll away from the pipe. On the NES version, if you enter that pipe in the first possible frame, Mario will get crushed against the wall and you will die and need to replay the level. Now, this is one of those stages that we absolutely need a P-Wing to obtain a switch, so it is paramount that I do not take damage. So here's another one that probably not a lot of people know about. And you do need a P-Wing to access this. There's also another important trick coming up. Good. It's very important that I carry this tail into 6-1. And now we're done with World 5, because the rest of those stages do not have switches in them. And that is the reason why we play the World 4 airship, is because we are able to skip all of that. So instead of having to get a tail from a different point in the stage, we can just use one at the start and fly up here. So yes, this exists too. Alright. Wasn't quite sure where that Patooey plant would wind up, because that Patooey plant can be in a variety of positions, and it's a blind fall all the way down. There are also a couple of pits you need to avoid. Now this next fortress coming up has a couple of noteworthy things about it. We do need to defeat this pro to pick up the last hammer that we will need for the run. We'll be using this to skip 6-7, which is an auto-scroller. So this next passage coming up in this fortress is very special. That passageway is actually just large enough that Mario will have a pixel perfect fit into it, so you can actually jump. You can do 30 hertz jumping there. Anyway, hopefully I get this. Nope, that's too bad. You can actually take this star all the way to Boom Boom and kill him using invincibility. But even though I didn't get it anyway, we're still gonna shout the word everybody wants to hear. Orb! So now what I do after this next stage will depend on what the bros do. Because I do need to pick up... Please. Yes, it can... That spinning platform can fling you straight into the ground, and it's happened to me a lot in Randomizer. So we're going to use a cloud to skip 6-5, and then I'm going to take it safe with these bros to make sure that I get the last couple of items I need to be able to finish the run out. I do need at least 1 star for Bowser, or the Bowser stage specifically, just so the lasers don't mess things up, because those lasers have very strange hitboxes. So the reason why we're skipping 6F2 is because it is the longest stage in the game that is on our route and does not have a switch. If you're not confident in your clips, you can play 6F2 and skip 7-1 instead. But I am going to be playing 7-1. Unfortunately, because of the route, I am going to need to clip it with a tail, which is significantly more difficult. That was a mistake. Now I'm not... I got into warpless mode for a second. You're not actually supposed to use a P-Wing here. So now I'm not going to have a P-Wing for the Air Force. Thankfully, I was able to catch myself and not fly over the stage, because if I'd flown over the stage, that would have invalidated the run. Because this is the only category that we actually get to see the inside of the stage. Because there's a switch back here. So I almost made a really bad mistake. Because you get one extra P-Wing that you can use on a stage of your choice. And I don't like the Air Force in World 8, so I just prefer to use it there. So that could have been really, really bad. Please. That was very close. Ah, 6F3. What a lot of people refer to as the Invincible Fortress, because most of the enemies in here are invulnerable to conventional attacks. I want to say to kill any of the enemies in this fortress, you actually need a hammer suit. And also, since I don't have that extra P-Wing anymore, it's very important that when I get to World 7, I hold this tail for the entire world. And it's also going to make the clip interesting. Because, as I had stated, clipping with a tail is much more difficult because of sub-pixel positioning. And if you have a tail, the clip is sub-pixel dependent. If I lose my tail before 7-2, then I'm going to need to take a very long path around the stage, and it costs quite a bit of time. For the 7-1 clip with a tail, it is pixel perfect and it's sub-pixel dependent. The jump is not frame perfect. The jump is not frame perfect, but it's speed dependent. So which frames work depend on it depends on speed. So all in all, really fun trick that kills runs super late. Normally, if I were doing warpless attempts, I would actually ditch the tail here, but it on average costs more time to do it that way. Alright, here we go. So how much time is this gonna take? Thankfully, once we get past the clip, the rest of World 7 is very short. There are only a few levels with switches, 7-2, 7-3, and 7F1, after which we are able to warp out. That takes a long time, and it's almost impossible to do without a frog suit. Alright, let's make this happen. Early. It's late. Generally, if you can get into the corner of the block, it means you timed your jump right, you're just not on the correct sub-pixel. Now I'm jumping too early. If this goes on too much longer, I'm just going to play the level normal. I'm just going to play the level normally at this point because I absolutely have to have a tail. It's too bad. I wanted to show that too. What you're supposed to be able to do there is... Oh no, that's really bad. Well, sub-hour is rapidly in jeopardy. Is in super jeopardy now. So, I'm pretty sure that's rip sub-hour. Because now I need to collect a backup power up here as well. And I'm going to need to enter the underground from a different location as well. Like, you really, really want to have a tail for this level. And there are no real convenient tails to get at this point, because all the power-up blocks in this level are Fire Mario. I mean, to be fair though, this was a ridiculously good run up until now. And the 7-1 clip is a major reset point. Because if you don't have a tail to hover over that, you need to build part of that note block bridge. Since you have to go down to hit the P switch, there's no feasible way to P speed over this gap. There just isn't. This also means that I'm going to need to get the Tanuki in 7F1, which takes a significant amount of time as well. This is one of my favorite levels in the game casually, because if you run through this level quickly enough, you can be invincible the entire time. Because there are a number of blocks in this stage that will contain stars if you're already invincible. That's also really bad. Don't start falling apart now. Technically, I don't need to hit that switch again because I've already hit it, but muscle memory is a thing. See you later, 7-4. So unfortunately, because we do not have a tail, we are going to need to pick this one up. I remember spending, like, way too much time in this fortress as a kid because of just the mountain of coins that P-switch generates. Yeah, there's no way this is going to be sub-hour. And that's everything we need to do here. There are no more switches in any of the rest of these levels, so we are off to Auto-Scroller Alley, World 8. There are a couple of interesting switch locations in these stages, but we won't see them until after all the artillery is over with. And I also won't have a P-Wing for the Air Force, so I'll need to play that straight. Which could get fun depending on the number of hands. Because just like in Warpless, hands are an issue. Because none of the hand levels have switches, if we don't get grabbed, we don't have to play them. And also with regards to a hammer suit, there's just no feasible way to be able to get one. Just because 6.5 is such a long level, and there aren't terribly many other good candidates to cloud past. If you really wanted to, you could cloud both 6F2 and 7.1. But if you get that clip quickly, 7.1 is such a short stage. There will be no boat swag, sorry. You can actually swim underneath these ships, but getting out of the water afterward can be tricky, and it can also be just, well, it's also slower to swim underneath the third one. Just because you would have to wait for the entire ship to scroll instead of being able to go down the pipe as soon as it's on screen. Alright, how many hands? Okay, well, we skipped the first one, so we'll get at most 2. And I'll get a leaf, which I'll probably use on 8.2? Either 8.2 or the Air Force. Well, if I get 2 hands, I can use them on both, but I would prefer to only have 1. Of course. Why did I open my big mouth? And of course, this one's also the longest one. 2 hands. So each hand has a 50% chance of grabbing you and taking you into a stage that you really don't want to play. Alright, Air Force, no P-Wing. Now, the reason why I like to P-Wing this, use my extra P-Wing on this stage in particular, is the platforming in this stage can be very stressful on PB pace. There are a lot of jumps that you'll have one shot at because of the doubled scroll rate. And you don't want Rocky Wrenches throwing their noodles around on the right side of the screen, because they will stay on screen for a very long time. So we're done with auto-scrollers for a while. Now you're about to see my favorite strategy in the run. That death is on purpose. Yes, there is a death abuse in this category. But I do need to make doubly sure that I finish this level, because if I take a death in this level, I will need to complete 8-1. That was scarier than it needed to be. That was also scarier than it needed to be. It's slow, but whatever, it's alive. That's what I care about, is alive. Just one more level with switches left. And it is 8F. 8F is the only stage in the game that has 3 switches. Unfortunately, because of the 3rd switch, we will not be able to do fast door in this run. But I will pick up a Fire Flower here for the Boom Boom fight, and I will want to hold this all the way through the rest of the game. They do. So all we got left is Super Tank before Bowser's Castle. And for this section, as long as you just mash the fireball button and hold right, nothing can hurt you. So now the reason why we want to hold fire is because I'm actually planning on doing a fire kill on Bowser. Which is faster than having him stomp through the floor. It just takes a lot of fireballs. I believe it is 40 fireballs. And that is the Everyman clip. That one's actually even pointed out in the official strategy guide. I'll rip that. Couldn't get out of the way in time. He is not being nice. Because there is a bit of randomness to the trajectory and positioning of the Bowser Fire. Also, time is coming up soon. It's going to be on the fade out. And I didn't forget one. And time. Not too pleased with that time. Yeah, 101's not great. But I'm glad I at least got to show this off, and hopefully I inspired some of you to get into this category. It's got really unique routing, really unique movement compared to other categories. And because of how much tail is used, it's actually pretty accessible. Thank you to NASA staff for letting me have this in this event. And hopefully this will get the category a bit more exposure. And stick around for this puzzle block that's coming up. It's something else.